Commitment accumulates long before outcomes appear measurable. By the time deviation is acknowledged, consequence has already scaled beyond quiet correction. Control often resembles stability, while tolerance contracts underneath sustained pressure. Confidence at this stage is frequently the earliest signal of structural misalignment. Acceleration does not announce the moment, it removes discretion. Once that threshold passes, continuation no longer depends on awareness. Flow enters under heat control, and the first constraint is stability without interruption. Throughput begins here, and every delay immediately multiplies downstream load. Initial transfer holds viscosity inside a narrow band, while correction windows shrink with each meter advanced. Control looks calm, but margin is already compressing under continuous circulation. Conditioning shifts from movement to decision because additive timing cannot be recovered later. Recognition separates operators from observers when the line stays stable while tolerance collapses. Separation and drying lock the baseline, and variation is handled before it becomes scale. Acceleration converts small deviations into persistent output, so correction must happen immediately. Adsorptive refining starts with commitment, where contamination handling becomes irreversible once mixed. The system runs continuous, and scale amplifies consequence faster than any manual intervention. Filtration and consolidation harden quality boundaries because backtracking is no longer available. Precision compresses tolerance, and throughput masks constraints until the first outlet refuses flexibility. Cooling and polishing transition the product into release conditions, while verification operates under moving limits. Silence hides structural signals when indicators remain steady, yet the allowable drift keeps shrinking. Packaging preparation begins as a synchronization problem, where misalignment becomes a throughput tax instantly. Windows collapse quickly because upstream stability means nothing if the line cannot accept it. Dry run cycles expose timing debt, and the tolerance budget disappears under repeated mechanical repetition. Delay multiplies downstream congestion, so alignment must be corrected before real flow starts. Cap handling and sealing readiness shift risk upward because closure integrity cannot be negotiated later. Control appears stable, but pressure accumulation forces decisions even when alarms stay quiet. Coding and thermal conditioning finalize release discipline, where traceability and temperature are locked before fill. Acceleration tightens correction windows, and any lag converts directly into rework volume. Manifold distribution and regulation emphasize that continuous flow prevents reversal once gates open. Scale amplifies consequence, and throughput hardens earlier tolerances into fixed acceptance limits. Inspection and rinsing enforce entry conditions, because one defect propagates faster than it can be removed. Recognition separates operators from observers when rejection stays rare, yet the system remains unforgiving. Final pressurization stabilizes behind closed control, and the next move commits the line. This phase cannot close anything, but it does eliminate room to hesitate. Flow release begins under committed pressure, and discharge converts calibration into consequence immediately. Once volume enters containers, reversal cost exceeds any earlier correction window. Sequential filling normalizes loss at scale, because overrun and underfill now multiply silently. Throughput accelerates, and tolerance bands narrow with every completed rotation. Closure torque and seal bonding define containment integrity, where deviation transfers directly into liability. Continuous motion prevents reconsideration, and density hardens each mechanical decision. Verification stations absorb minor variance without stopping momentum, but acceptance criteria no longer expand. Silence hides structural signals when rejection stays minimum, yet constraint buildup continues underneath. Labeling and coding convert product into accountable inventory, locking identity to every unit. Delay multiplies downstream reconciliation, so alignment must hold without negotiation. Accumulation zones redistribute flow, but congestion risk scales faster than visual indicators suggest. Recognition separates operators from observers when spacing appears uniform while margin disappears. Lane convergence commits volume into unified streams, eliminating flexibility gained earlier in distribution. Acceleration compresses response time, and deviation converts instantly into blocked throughput. High-speed inspection tightens final filters because defect escape probability compounds under scale. Control seems routine, yet tolerance that accumulates with each uninterrupted cycle. Secondary stabilization and torque recheck confirm ownership of prior decisions without rollback. Continuous flow prevents reversal and output, locks earlier tolerances into fixed consequence. Consolidation into dense parallel rows amplifies exposure where any interruption radiates across volume instantly. Loss becomes normalized under speed, and correction now requires system-wide compromise. Final acceleration drives synchronized output towards sustained maximum rate without margin recovery. The line no longer negotiates, it commits volume into irreversible distribution. Output has reached terminal state and no further adjustment remains available. Few identify where commitment truly became irreversible within the silent compression of tolerance. Recognition separates operators from observers, and this alignment is never widely retained.